Well, hi everybody, and welcome to our Ask the Expert interview. Today we are joined by Eric Barron, who is strategic consultant for EBA Performance. Hi, Eric.
Hello, Paola.
You have many years of experience in the media and broadcast industry, and the thing that's on everybody's mind at the moment is there's a big transition underway from traditional broadcast into streaming services direct to the consumer. So, how is this changing the business models of the content providers?
Well, indeed, I mean, as you know, there is a huge and steady growth in the video traffic and consumption. And 2020, and even last 3 months of 2021, I've seen a proliferation of direct-to-consumer streaming services. So on top of the Netflix and Amazon Prime, we have had what I call the plus, Disney Plus, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus, and closer to us in Europe, the last to or BritBox. Essentially on an SVOD model, and some numbers have been released earlier this week by the Motion Picture Association, showing that at the end of 2020 we have a 1.1 billion subscribers. So that is a growth of 26% year on year. So there is a massive change in the content distribution, where content owners became content providers as well. Having said that, it's worth noting that consumers really, they like the on-demand features and the flexibilities that are offered by the streaming subscription model. One thing they don't like really is the difficulty of finding the content they want. There is a limited way of searching across the services, and very often the viewers, the consumers, have 2, 3, sometimes even 4 services of subscription. In terms of the business models, it's a kind of a difficult situation between the direct-to-consumer services that are trying to avoid the middleman, because this is really it, and the MVPDs, the operators that need the content, even if for them it's at a low margin. So in both the SVOD and the AVOD models, in both cases, it is clear content once again is king, but obviously costs going up, they need to have more subscribers and or higher prices. So there's been a survey in the US showing that, for instance, for the D2C business, the new streaming services, I mean, in order to scale, need to achieve something like 50 million subscribers in the US and 200 million subscribers worldwide. So today, there's only Netflix basically who's doing that. Amazon Prime obviously has got some other capabilities, and Disney is already at 100 million worldwide. But scalability is key, and that's for the SVOD. But for the AVOD model, it's the same. They need to generate enough revenues from the advertising, and or it's because they want to propose a lower cost option for consumers. So having said that, the number of subscribers is quite important, but also I would say the ARPU, so the average revenue per user, the churn rate, the total time that is spent by the user watching the content are key KPIs as well. So, whilst the content is once again king in this industry, the content distribution and its monetization is, we could say, the queen. We've got, again, this cost revenues, but at the end of the day, and especially when you're at some point on the stock market, the profitability, I mean, if you need to make money out of you do, just you can't subsidize everything. So interestingly enough, some not that long ago we were talking about codec wars, and today it seems it's a kind of the streaming wars.
So it sounds like quite a difficult situation for the industry in general. But are there opportunities here for codec vendors or service providers or any sort of equipment provider?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, we are in this kind of fast-changing world, and it's true from the content, but also the networks, the devices. So the codecs, they also need to evolve, and they also need to solve, let's say, new and bigger challenges. For instance, because we are moving from SD to HD to 4K to 8K, so there are bigger files, which requires therefore better and smarter compression. Also, there is a requirement for better video quality at the source, but also a consistency of that quality, during the transport of that the content. I think the more and more the viewer, the user experience is essential in the success of the streaming service provider and any content provider. So I need to ensure that the service, the source, is good. Also, you need to optimize the file size when it's transported, and be it, over internet, of course, but even 4G, 5G, and maybe one day 6G. So importance of the viewer experience, and it requires to be therefore very efficient, but also quite cost effective. And this is true for both on demand and live. So I guess there is it is true for both the service provider and the consumer and the codec vendors, that there is an opportunity to make it happen between the codec vendors and the service provider, to the benefit of the user, who at the end of the day is financing all of it. So yes, clearly yes.
It does seem to be a bit of fragmentation, though, in the encoding domain at the moment. So is that a good thing or a bad thing for the content providers when they're thinking about services?
That makes me, smile, because it's always the same merry-go-round. If there is not enough choice, people complain. If there is too much choice, it's like, oh, what to do and why. But I think all in all, it's good. Number one, because it gives flexibility. And it's true from both a quality perspective and a cost point of view. But you're right. I mean, up to not that long ago, we had essentially, H.264, ACVC, AVT, and H.265, HEVC. But for different reasons, including for royalties and search for improvements that were necessary to the industry, we started to have AV1, which is the Alliance for Open Source, and then VP9, but again, it's Google, it's not by Apple, and more recently, the H.266, called VVC otherwise, and the LCEVC. So yes, more codecs, but also there are more use cases, more needs. And I think, each streaming companies can also think about what do they need. So there is a kind of video encoding checklist, understand your audience, what kind of typical bandwidth is available, urban area or rural area, fixed connection, or the user is on the move using a mobile phone, the type of devices, again, is it a large screen smart TV, or is it, again, a smartphone? The nature of the content, is it a kind of a action movie or sports, or on the contrary, just a low action like news or cartoons? How much time available to compress those files that are going to be transported? Is it live or is it VOD? So there are plenty of tools and parameters in this area. But at the end of the day, it's I think video encoding is a mix of what I would call science, with the objective metrics that exist, but also it's a kind of an art with all the the subjectivity, the eye of the user and the consumer. So yes, I think it is good that there are many types of codec today, and I think it is relatively more and more accepted that there is a need for choice, and they all add to each other potentially, with the pros and cons. And you've got between the streaming companies and the codec vendors, but I mentioned the ecosystem. It's also good for the overall industry to have that choice.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a really interesting food for thought there. Lots of good things to think about, lots of good advice there. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Paola. It's my pleasure.